You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan and Kaan Bayazit.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksın kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol. Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Roma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 52 of the Black Eagles podcast. And we've got something special, something different today. So Kaan, my usual co-host, is out. He is interviewing Özcan Oğur, which is news that I think will excite a lot of our loyal listeners who might remember the Özcan Oğur episode where we kind of reviewed the finance of Turkey and of course Beşiktaş specifically and the league. And they've waited for that episode to record because apparently there's big news coming in regarding the Ziraat Bank and I don't even want to do any spoiling, so I'll leave that to them. But that's where Kaan is. But so in his stead, we've brought in a ringer, someone who's been on the podcast before, but in a different capacity, I guess we could say. Özcan Oğur, one of the twins, is with us.
One half.
Round of applause.
One half.
So how you doing, man? How you doing, Özcan?
I'm alright, man. I'm great. Happy to be on the podcast.
Yeah. This is your first co-hosting, I don't know what you'd call it, first run as a co-host. You feeling good about this?
I'm excited, man. I'm not gonna lie. Different experience. It's good to try things.
Yeah.
Happy to be on.
And on a good day too, right? We're coming off a match. I don't want to spoil, right? We have a way of bringing it in for those who maybe didn't see the match and want to get the news in order. But so yeah, I'll cut right to it, and then we'll talk plenty, of course, with John. But so yeah, match report. We have just come off a match with Akhisar, an away match, which is noteworthy because Akhisar has defeated both Galatasaray and Fener soundly, 3-0 on both occasions. And so coming into this match, this was one of those ones you'd have circled on the calendar as something to look out for. And yeah, I'll cut right in. The game started out edgy. Akhisar probably looked the stronger side. Would you agree with that, Özcan, early on?
Yeah, I'd say so. I thought they had the more dangerous chances, definitely.
Yeah, and they did put the ball on goal a couple times. Karius was brought into action, but nothing to come of it, really. But then, somewhat against the run of play, Beşiktaş came in on the counter. Dorukhan took a belter of a shot from, I don't know, I'd say 25 meters out.
Yeah.
Meters? I don't know what's
outside the box.
Right, well out. Definitely well outside of the box. 28, maybe? It was deep out. Ljajic will be credited with the assist for that. But it made it 1-0, and that's Dorukhan, or I should say 0-1. But that's Dorukhan Toku's first goal on the record. Of course, he scored.
Quite important.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, he scored two others that were scratched from the record. Anyway, but we'll get into that news. I'll let you tell that news, perhaps. Özcan, RE, the official stuff. But shortly thereafter, there was a yellow card for Elvis Manu, one for Gary Medel, one for Quaresma. Maybe nothing too shocking in who received them. We went into the half up 0-1 on the road, with that stunner of a goal being the only real moment that separated the two sides. But Akhisar maybe playing the better football up to that stage. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe Burak had a decent chance at the end of the half, but from that, we didn't really have anything. After 1-2 with Stoke.
Absolutely, that was a nice little setup. And again, that was from Durakan. I actually thought it was from Ljajic. Such was the, the quality of the touch on that pass. I assumed it could only be Ljajic, but in fact, yeah, it was Durakan. So again, maybe he's staking his claim for that role in the center of the midfield. But I don't know. We'll have to talk more about that. To the match itself, coming into the second half, Akhisar made a substitution, taking off Bokila and bringing on Sikalishi, and this would be noteworthy. He'd proved to be a sort of thorn in Beşiktaş's side for much of the half. But despite that, because that wouldn't really come into effect until later on, coming right into the half in the 48th minute, who else but Quaresma sent in a nice lofty cross, which Gökhan Gönül latched onto with his head really kind of exquisitely and put it into the goal in a fairly stunning moment that, the game had really just come up back to life, with the start of the half. Did you have any comments on the goal, Özcan?
Gökhan Gönül, he's not the first guy you'd expect to score a header, but it's actually the second header he scored this season, if I'm not mistaken. He scored one against Erzurum.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's making maybe adding that to his repertoire. I don't know what you'd call that, but yeah, for sure, that was well slotted in. In the 50th minute, Caner got a yellow card. Perhaps, finally, he hadn't been having the best of matches all around.
Not a big surprise there again. Like a player you'd expect to see a yellow card.
Yeah, exactly. Not a shocker. He's not the most disciplined or level-headed of players. And again, he's sort of had a stinker of a match up to that point. He did settle maybe around this point. Perhaps the yellow card settled him. Can do that, I guess. But yeah, in the 64th minute, a perhaps surprising substitution. Burak Yilmaz came out and Kyle Larin came in. The fact that Burak came out wouldn't in and of itself be a shocker, just given that this is his first match. He's out of form. He's chronically injured, right? You want to keep him healthy and, and he wasn't particularly effective up to that point. But Kyle Larin coming in was a surprise. But, nonetheless, we'll get back to that. Another yellow card for Akhisar, a substitution for Akhisar. Helder Barbosa come in for Elvis Manu, one of their superfluous foreign players coming in for another one. We'll get into that. In the 76th minute, after a few opportunities that had been squandered, if we're going to be honest, Kyle Larin put in what might go down as his nicest goal as a Beşiktaş player. To be fair, it was his first goal this season, which is not a good look, given that the second half of the season has just started. But it was a stunner of a goal. He controlled the ball well, slotted it in superbly with a lot of power on it. Great volley.
Yeah, it was brilliantly worked by Ljajic as well, getting the ball, wee turn,
fantastic.
worked it the right side. Brilliant crossing.
Yeah, and his second assist, although the first was maybe coincidental. And then Ozan came into the match in the 79th minute for Adem Ljajic. Again, probably a smart move. The midfield had been losing control to that point. One might argue that sub should have come earlier. 79th minute is pretty late. So Ozan really only had like 10 minutes to have any impact. But anyway, shortly thereafter, 2 minutes later, Sikalishi smashes in a goal. To be fair, the goal was entirely put together by the assister in Virsijavic. I struggle with that dude's name. Virsijavic, whatever. But yes, really masterfully crafted assist on his part, and Sikalishi just had to tuck it in. 84th minute, Atiba Hutchinson came on for Medel. I think that was the move that probably should have come first as far as the team having lost control of the midfield. Gary Medel became a ghost early on, perhaps as a product of the yellow card. Whereas Caner settled into the match and played more carefully because of the yellow card. Gary Medel needs that sort of pugnacious, the ability to terrorize people in the back. So when the yellow card shows up, I think that kind of neuters him to some extent, and that showed. But anyway, Chinol waited till the 84th minute to make that sub. In the 86th minute, Versijevic, the assister on the previous goal, came out for, is it Umer Ayik? What's his first name? The fellow who came in? Is it? Onur, not Umer. Sorry. And yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it. A couple more yellow cards to take the match out. It ends 3-1 Beşiktaş, and I'll just break right into the stats so that we can kind of do a full analysis without too much back and forth. Without too many breaks in between. But so yeah, Akhisar had 15 shots to Beşiktaş's 11, 5 on target each. So, the result wasn't there for Akhisar despite the effort. Possession was actually in Akhisar's favor, 53% to 47%, which is interesting. I would not have guessed that. They completed more passes, 439 to Beşiktaş's 411. Their passing accuracy was 82% to Beşiktaş's 77%. That to me is stunning. Akhisar statistically had a very good game. Beşiktaş committed 18 fouls to their 12, 4 yellow cards to their 3. So disciplined, not so much. 6 offsides by Akhisar to Beşiktaş 2, and as we know, one of their goals was taken back because of an offside, which we didn't even mention that, but that is the case. It would have made the match 2-1, in fact. Who was it that scored that?
It was Chikalishi.
Yeah, it was.
It was Serginho.
Chikalishi again. So, man, that guy really impacted the match as soon as it came in. But so, yeah, he was whistled offside, so it came to nothing, and that moment is forever forgotten in history. Never to be recorded statistically again. Apparently, that took us a little while to find. You won't know that because of us in post-production. But anyway, yeah, that's it. Statistically, 8 corners Akhisar had to Beşiktaş's 2. And so I'm actually stunned by the stats. Usually the stat flash is something of a null point because it's fairly clear what happened. The other team had very little of the ball and we were pressing and, it had become somewhat redundant. But this is fairly shocking to me because it really does suggest that Akhisar played. And of course, when you're behind, you're going to have more of the ball. But that doesn't guarantee efficiency. That doesn't guarantee a successful passing rate to the extent that they had. I mean, and I wanted to say this even before I saw these stats, but I definitely want to mention this now before we dig into the match too much. Big shout out, big credit to Akhisar. They really did play well. And of course, the final scoreline won't reflect that. But Loris Karius had 4, maybe even 5, maybe all 5 of his saves were pretty big clutch ones on goals that could easily have turned this match in another direction. And I said this in the match report, but the first half of the match, despite being up a goal, Beşiktaş was far from being the better of the two teams. So, it doesn't go without saying. Good luck to Akhisar going forward because we're not going to see them again, right? We've reached that stage of the season. But I hope they don't go down to relegation because that was a somewhat impressive side, I must say. And bearing in mind their victories over Galatasaray and Fener, what can you say,
Yeah, they are just a point above relegation at the moment. Obviously, they've played a game more than the teams below them at Erzurumspor and Fenerbahce.
Yeah.
So, they could very well go into the relegation zone, but they are a team known for playing very openly and try to play good football against no matter who they're playing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's what like the other Anatolian teams that they kind of put 11 men behind the ball. They always do try and play good football, and so it has worked for them in the past in the big games. Like they've been a real thorn in Fenerbahce's side, not just this year but last year as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and 3-0, right? 3-0 victories. That's not like it's nothing to sneeze at.
For the Super Cup, 2-1 in August, and then they beat them 3-0 as well in the league.
Mm-hmm.
They do have good ball players like that. Elvis Manu.
Yeah.
He wasn't great today, but he was a very impressive player on his day.
Yeah, for sure. Especially against our our friend from Istanbul. He was very solid in those matches. So yeah, that's exciting. Very exciting. Now, I guess maybe it bears mentioning, since you sort of alluded to it yourself by talking about Akhisar's position at the bottom there. As far as the tables go, Beşiktaş still sits in 6th, despite having that win, and the other teams having a match in hand, which doesn't particularly bode well. Antalya, if they were to win this weekend, would pass us again, and we'd find ourselves right back in 7th. But with that said, right now, Galatasaray, Kasımpaşa, Yeni Malatya, and Trabzon all have 29 points, alongside Beşiktaş, who has 29 points. And Başakşehir has 35. So if Trabzon beats Başakşehir tomorrow...
they play Sunday.
Sunday, the day after tomorrow. But so if Trabzonspor can beat them, we're still, 6 points back. I should say, no, we are finally 6 points back. I'd hoped to go into the break only 6 points back. But that would be huge. And if not, Trabzon is a rival at the stage too. So that's a fun game to watch either way.
I think for us at this point, it's just about just winning our own games. Other teams are going to drop points eventually. Like the first half of the season showed that as well.
Yeah,
it's a very close league. Any team's capable of beating any team. We just need to focus on winning our games, and the other result, everything should pan out. But that's the thing. Are we going to win all our games?
And a 9-point deficit is as bad as that looks. Again, right? Like one weekend like this, and it's 6 points, and you can never forget that there's going to be a time this season where Beşiktaş plays against Başakşehir, and so a victory there brings it to 3. Everything is alive. Football is magical in that regard, But so it's also a thrilling season in a sense for the Super League because you have so many teams. The announcers today on BN Sports USA, Georgie Metellus, and there's another fellow, Portuguese, maybe very good announcing today. I'll give a shout out to them as well. But they described it as a bottleneck, and I think that's a very appropriate way of describing the Super League right now, because there are so many quality sides right at the top trying to hope to squeeze out on the other end. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. This weekend, everyone should be, if you're not watching the games, at least keeping tabs on the scores on your phone. Bound to be interesting. But anyway, let's get into this match, Özcan. We've got you here to do a little analysis alongside me. What are your thoughts? First and foremost, what stands out? I guess let me organize this thing. Let's talk about debutantes. We have two guys who slided right into the first team, which is perhaps surprising or a little rare on the part of Şenol Güneş. But Burak Yilmaz and Nikola Isimat slid right into that first side, and I guess that's probably a good place for us to start. What are your thoughts on their performances? You can pick who you talk about first.
I'll start with Mirin. To be honest, I thought Mirin slotted in there perfectly. It looked like he's been playing for us for a while, like the way he played. You wouldn't think he's a centre-back playing in his first game with a new centre-back partner, and obviously a whole new defence, new goalkeeper. I like the way, to me it looked like he was very calm whenever he got the ball, that's not what we never saw with, like, say, Pepe, and Vida even. They're known for kind of just like hitting the ball up the park whenever they get it into trouble, but Mirin was very kind of calm, cold-blooded.
Yeah.
He wasn't shy about taking a few touches. He even pulled off some weird skill against a player at some point in the second half. The pass after it wasn't great, but still showed that he's confident on the ball, which is a good sign for us.
Very much.
When it comes to Burak, like, Burak wasn't great today. You could tell that the Akhisar defence was scared of him, but like, I think he does need time. Like, he's not played in a while. He was left outside the squad in Trabzon for, I don't know, disciplinary reasons. So he will need a couple of games probably. But I'm sure he will come to his own and score a good few goals for us in the remainder of the season.
Yeah, and I think, look, as far as those two performances go, I agree with everything you just said. You have to look at them in the lens of it being their first performances, their debuts for a side. As far as you said, as far as Isimat goes, that's a wonder start. You can't ask for more. It's the fact that you can describe it as if it's someone who looked like he'd seamlessly fit in without, it was hard to believe it was his first appearance with that back line, especially considering how important communication is on the back line and all of that. I can't agree more. Yeah, I mean that's an ideal first match for any player. And so for Burak Yilmaz to maybe not have the perfect debut, it's somewhat to be expected. And on the other hand, I guess you could say that he did play very well positionally. Positionally he was making runs that were, you said they looked scared, and they looked scared because he was putting weight on their back line. You could tell there was some miscommunication as far as like Ljajic and he weren't connecting very well. Burak had a few bad touches. He's never been like technically the best player anyway. That's not what he's there for.
Yeah.
So you just have to wait for the connection to solidify between he and some of those guys in the midfield. Particularly, I'm anticipating, while you have a guy like Quaresma or Janer even, who can really lob in those crosses, on a dime, you'd hope that they would make a connection with Burak, because I think that really matches his strengths as a player, in attack. Would you agree with that?
I think Burak's most well known for kind of his runs off the defence's shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd also be looking for your Laiches,
Well, of course.
if he's playing.
Yeah.
Dorokan to play a good through balls to him. Like you saw, like that bit of play between Burak and Dorokan was beautiful. Just if he could finish it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that surprised me even to some extent, because I anticipated. Dorokan. Who knew? You never know what to expect from this kid. He seems to be getting better every match we see him. But as far as Ljajic, I assumed that a guy like Burak wouldn't necessarily play to his strengths, and so he would be kind of more in that Özcan role from a couple years ago, where he sits back maybe a little more and distributes to the wings and gets them, in positions to get the ball into Burak, by cutting in or crossing it in, whatever it would be. But anyway, whatever the result is, everyone knows I'm not a huge Burak fan, but at the end of the day, right now, he's our striker, and so you want whoever's there to score. So let's hope for the best. And even though he didn't score today, let's not throw him under the bus by any stretch. I think, yeah, he showed some promise. He definitely showed some ability to weigh on the back line, and I think it's only a matter of time before he connects with the guys in the midfield.
Hopefully next week.
That is an interesting encounter coming ahead as well. Before we go there, though, let's talk about some other aspects of this match. Now, in your opinion, who is your highlight and who is your low light? Who do you give your man of the match to today?
That's a hard question. I say highlight. I'd have to go with Dorokan, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm split between him and Ljajic. Gurkan played a very good game as well.
Yeah.
But I'll go with Dorokan. It was a beautiful goal. He's very tenacious as always. That's the thing about it. He might not always. He does play good passes as well, but he always runs. You always see him running forward. He's always pressing forward. He's always making runs. Like, see when you watch Olsen.
Yeah.
A lot of time he kind of just waits, like in front of the. Like, I think that's one of his biggest problems. Like, Olsen's an effective player when he gets the ball just outside the penalty box, where he can play a through ball to someone. Not when he's sitting like just in front of the defence, which is what you see him do quite a lot.
For sure. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And another feature that I really noticed today in Dorokan's game is how much energy he brings back. You know, he doesn't always position himself to be in a great defensive place, but he'll always come back with so much energy and just like, you know, he kind of flies out of nowhere. He's always flying around, you know, making contact with the ball. Maybe not the perfect contact, but like not like Necip either, where it becomes counterproductive sometimes. You know, he's really he brings a pace and energy and purpose on offense and defense that it's exciting. It's exciting to see this kid blossom before our eyes. And I would agree also. He would have to be my highlight. If I have to give it to someone else as well, Gökhan also, yeah, especially given the struggles that Caner had early on in particular. Gökhan Gündoğan filled in well and was solid on the back line, and of course that goal was sweet. And of course, yeah, what's nice about that goal, as you mentioned earlier, is that it is maybe becoming a feature of his game. You know, it's not the first time he's done it. So that's very exciting. That's fun to see as well. But I actually don't think I would give him my highlight if I had to pick someone else. I think I might give it to Loris Karius. And just because, as we said also already, you know, we're at a point where we've seen on so many occasions those goals come back and hit us in the butt when we think we've got something going. And I mentioned this to you pre-episode, but I'll say it again. I noticed in our group chat that people were almost immediately, because of the nature of Dorukhan's goal, they were already writing this thing up as a win. And I was thinking, you know, watching Akhisar play a fairly dominant brand of football, guys, like, you're writing this team off way too soon. I didn't say anything because I almost, you know, I don't want to start a conflict for no reason. But, you know, I felt that people were really chalking this thing up as a W way too fast. And then even after the second goal, I thought people were getting a little, because, you know, that one goal, they hit you on that one goal on the counter, it's 2-1, and suddenly you're scrambling to get back. You know, and we've seen it so many times. So really big shout out to Loris Karius for keeping us in this thing long enough so that we could really put our brand on the match and feel a little comfortable for a change. Even when they scored that last one, we were already up 3-1 at that point. So we could kind of relax and enjoy this for a change, which was nice. But now I'll ask you the harder question, perhaps. Who do you give the low light?
I think the easiest one is Caner.
Yeah.
It's just,
yeah.
He always does it. You see the ball come out to the left wing. He never goes to contest the cross. He always just kind of keeps like walking back the way. He always like kind of backs off. You know, it's kind of like in basketball. Mm-hmm. Like someone not going out a 3-point shooter, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of always sags off.
Yeah. We have a few of those on the Knicks. That's a common theme, is letting 3-point shooters get hot by just like sitting back on the 3-point line. Yes. I'm very familiar. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. And the problem that Caner does is with crosses too, he does that, and he lets them put these pinpoint crosses in often.
He does it every game, but I definitely say that they were very dangerous from their right or left side today. Mm-hmm. And I don't. I mean, we all know that Caner's not the best of defenders. He's not. He's a left back, more known for his attacking play with his pinpoint crosses.
Yeah,
but I say it was out there to see today his weakness in defence, to be honest. And he didn't have the greatest of the games defensively either.
Yeah.
So that kind of highlights it more.
Yeah, you've again stolen my thunder. I would have to agree 100%. I would. You know. In a vacuum, I would have picked both your high and low points. And I would have to agree as well. I think he did settle in, perhaps when it became more clear that he had to commit to playing defensively. Like one of the things he often does is he gets caught playing up front, and that happened early on in the game. Once we were up 3-0 or whatever, and it was like, yo, stay back and stop fooling around, maybe that helped, but even still, he's always iffy. And like, you're right, yeah, he sits back on the 3-point line on shots too. You know, he troublesome.
Yeah, I think that one you're talking about is, I think he was getting on at Lens for not dropping back for him.
Yeah.
Like we lost the ball, I think when we were going up. Yeah, I remember that.
And
position.
Lenz did come back, but then he just very lazily defended, and that was honestly surprising from Lenz, because typically you don't find Lenz like wanting for effort so much, but he just almost looked like he got tired of defending there. Anyway, let me try to put together my low light, since you picked the obvious one in Jenner. I think I might actually have to go with Medel. Gary Medel for me was okay early on, and I think he's the type of player who when he gets a yellow card, what he's often bringing you is that pugnacious, like kind of almost angry defending in the back. And when he has a yellow card, obviously it kind of neuters him to the extent that he can't fly around like he likes to. And so perhaps that could maybe, give him a cover. But, it's never good when someone in the center of your midfield is ghosting. It can really hurt the team. And I think when Beşiktaş lost control of the midfield in the second half, that had a big role to play. And so I was surprised that Şenol Güneş's first sub was Burak Yılmaz. Again, I get it because of just he wasn't having the best of games, and he's not the fittest of individuals or the most informed. But at that point, I felt already the midfield was already flagging. Perhaps maybe you make a second sub with the Burak sub if that's the move you want to make. And I was also surprised that he took Ljajic off first rather than Medel, because Medel for me seemed to be really at the fulcrum there, and you can't have a guy like that not being involved, and especially in that role with this team in particular. It's Atiba could have really, I think, solidified. There would have been less of a scramble at the end, I have a feeling, if Atiba had been in there earlier. But that's it.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. So it's not good today. You find with Medel, he is very tenacious and puts a lot of effort in, but he's just not great at defending when it comes to like defending an area.
Yeah, I mean maybe it's past his capacity, given he's not getting any younger to play in that role in the midfield. He doesn't quite have whatever it is that's needed, the energy or the pace or, whatever it is, the passion. I don't want to say that because he's a very passionate guy, but it's not working in that role.
I like him better at centre back personally.
One of the most interesting things I've mentioned this briefly on an episode in Kaan. I don't think he wasn't buying it, but I think that Gary Medel's best match this season was as a left back, and he was a sort of fill-in because we had a bunch of injuries at one point. And he actually surprised me with his ability to fill in that role. He, of course, didn't bring a lot in terms of bringing the ball forward and crossing, but we typically have enough guys on the wing who can do that already. It was interesting. Anyway.
I think that was against Kayserispor. He played left back.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he did play well in that game.
But anyway, I don't think there's a lot more to say about this match. Round of applause to the new guys who slotted in well and contributed to the 3 points. Round of applause to the guys we gave, credit to. And you know what? Round of applause to the guys who we gave lowlights to, and also because at the end of the day, they're players at Beşiktaş, and we need everyone to be in as high morale as possible. Oh, one side note, and we only sort of briefly glanced over it. Kyle Larin. I want to give an honorary mention as a highlight to my man Kyle from North America over here. He has been a pile of dog shit. I'm going to have to pull out the bleeps here, I think. But to be perfectly honest, that's just what it is. He's been terrible thus far. And he put away his first goal of the season. So congratulations to him. And it was a beautiful goal. We did mention that. And in general, he showed energy and verve He had a couple goals against Afyonspor in a friendly, and I thought, whatever, that's Afyonspor. But, and I think he'd scored in a previous friendly as well. But, maybe maybe he needed Burak Yilmaz to come in and put pressure on his role with the team. What do you think, Özcan? Any comments on Kyle Laren's stunning performance?
It was a great goal. He missed an absolute sitter before it as well.
He really did. Yeah, that was a terrible miss. He skied. In his defense, it took a little weird bounce right before it got to him. That the slow-mo highlight showed. But come on, buddy, you gotta put those away.
Yeah. It was quite Edna played into Leitch, and Leitch kind of just played it back to Laren. I don't know how he missed it. Luckily for him, I was watching the highlights just to kind of recap, and I noticed that they didn't put that in the highlights, so I think he'll be quite happy with that.
Yeah, there you go. And he did also, he had an offsides goal that was taken away too. He was clearly offsides on. One last thing, and I'm surprised we forgot to mention this already. This game may not have counted. And of course, don't panic, listeners. It counted in terms of the scoreline, or I should say it counted in terms of the result. Beşiktaş is definitely getting 3 points. But Akhisar they brought, in their full roster with the bench players included, 13 foreign players, when in fact the rule stipulates you can only bring 12. Özcan, I promised pre-episode that I'd let you report this. Why don't you tell people what this means and what it signifies?
Well, but it's what you call in Turkish Akura. They forfeit the game. There's a mistake that leads to the game being forfeited.
Yeah. Normally,
so that would mean that we'd win the game 3-0. But I'm reading kind of mixed reviews. The presenter on Bein Sports said that if that was to happen, the stats wouldn't stay. So, like, say Dorokan's game, like goal for example, would get knocked off. So that'd be like, I get the third time or something that he's had a goal this in the last 3 games.
Yeah, that gets booted. And Kyle Laren's first goal of the year too.
Yeah, but then for that Gunay I wrote on Twitter that it would count. So I'm not sure, but they also said in Bein Sports that it would only happen if Beşiktaş made a formal complaint about it. Like, it's not the TF. Beşiktaş would need to complain first.
Yeah. So I wanted to weigh in on this. That in fact, the last I saw was someone with Akhisar came out and has already said it's true. We screwed up. If Beşiktaş complains, then the result will be erased and it will be a 3-0 forfeit. But so the operative clause there for me was if Beşiktaş complains. Beşiktaş could just say, you know what, we're fine with this. They might honestly do that for the sake of Dorgan.
Imagine Beşiktaş do that and then we lose the title by -1 goal difference.
I was just thinking that. Tactically, in a vacuum, that's not the move, But what Firat Günayer was arguing was that in a similar scenario where Galatasaray was given a forfeit victory, Drogba had scored twice and he was given those goals regardless. Is that correct? So perhaps there's a scenario where we get the 3-0, forfeit result and our guys get their goals, which I really genuinely hope they do. Especially, Gökhan Gönül, great, is a great header, but the dude's old. He's fine. He doesn't need stats at this stage in his career. For sure, I think Dorukhan needs that goal because he's earned all 3 of his. And Kyle Laren, too, honestly. I think if the kid has any hope of turning it around, it's, that's where it starts, right? It starts by having a nice goal and maybe putting it together with another one in the next match, right? So
you can see with Laren that just the ball going in the back of the net. The one he scored that was disallowed for offside. It was clearly offside, but you could just see him smile after it.
Mm-hmm.
I think for him, just the net wrestling's enough kind of put a smile on his face and make him feel better about himself.
Yeah,
Like,
I sure hope so. He's got the size, the athleticism, of course. That's like the whole thing in North America. But, if he could put together those pieces. And I'll say this again, like if Burak Yilmaz is truly older and more mature and more suited to this squad, to the ethos of our team even, he could theoretically be a perfect mentor for Kyle Larin because they both have that same frame. And he has just the skills that a guy like Larin would hope to add to his skill base.
The only real difference is Burak's a bit faster.
Well, yeah. I remember that nice goal at the end of last season where he took it up the wing. I think he has a little pace. He might surprise you. But anyway, let's keep moving. Briefly, let's mention what's happening next week in the Super League because, of course, that's fairly important. First of all, this week, as I have already alluded to, Başakşehir is playing Trabzonspor on Sunday, 11 a.m. here in New York City. So that's going to be like, I don't even know, 7 p.m. in Istanbul? Or sorry, is it in Istanbul? Yeah, 7 p.m. in Turkey, I think. So I don't know what that means for you, Özcan. Is that like a 5 p.m.?
If it's 7 in Istanbul, it'll be 4 here because if
4
we
p.m. Yeah.
the winner.
So yeah, you're about 5 hours after us. That's interesting. That's going to be a real important match for the league all around. Galatasaray has Ankara Gücü also this weekend. That's another maybe notable match. I won't even really mention Fener. They're playing Bursa, but whatever. That doesn't even bother us. Next week, Beşiktaş has Erzurumspor, or Büyükşehir Belediye Erzurumspor if you're being technical about it. 12:30 p.m. match time here, just after noon. Brunch, the brunch match for us New Yorkers. That's 8:30 p.m. in Istanbul, or in Turkey, I guess. I think we're actually home for that one. In Istanbul, in Vodafone Park, even, if you will. And for you, Özcan, that means it's going to be 5:30.
Half 5,
That's a
yeah.
nice one. Right before dinner, you could have a beer or two, enjoy the match.
I'm ready to work. Hopefully I'll get it swapped, but
That's a bummer for you.
What's the game,
But so yeah, that's of course the big match next week. As another big one next week is Başakşehir playing Kasim Pasha at home next Monday. So in these next couple of weeks, Başakşehir could drop points, or at the very least, other guys who are vying for that spot that we're vying for will also drop points. So, good things can happen as long as we stick to the grind and pull out some victories. Erzurumspor should be a very, very, very, very, very, very, very winnable match for us. They are at the very bottom of the table, right above Fener in that third relegation zone. 16 points. So there's no excuses for us.
They did give us a game in the away fixture, if you remember.
Yeah. But they got it out of their system. Now we have business to attend to at home after a nice win this week. I expect nothing but 3 points, and no one else should expect otherwise. And it'll be interesting. I hope Burak Yilmaz can break the duck and start to smash him in for us. You have anything to say about next week, Özcan?
I think that's kind of one of the most interesting parts about next week. It will be interesting to see the home reaction to Burak. I hope they don't boo him. I really hope they don't boo him.
Me too. I don't like the guy as a human being, but he's a Beşiktaş player now. And at the end of the day, if you're going to the stadium and spending money to support Beşiktaş, that means doing the best you can to help the team win. If you are impacting the morale of Beşiktaş in a negative way, you have no business at the stadium.
Like, the type of character Burak is as well. He's the type of guy that will just kind of turn around and go using.
Yeah, he very well could.
That's just the way it is. You saw it at Trabzonspor. He had a bit of an altercation with fans early in the season, and that's why he actually got left out of the squad. Like, he was getting booed or whatever. And he kind of gestured some stuff towards it. Like, I think there was some things said as well, and that's what resulted in him getting left out of the squad. So you don't need to look. If anyone that's going to go to that game, listen to this. You don't need to cheer the guy. Just don't bloody boo him, man.
Exactly. If you have nothing, anyone who has a parent has probably heard the phrase, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And that always applies to our players on Beşiktaş. Don't affect morale negatively. And this applies to the guys who were booing Özcan last season individually while mysteriously cheering Quaresma and Şenol Güneş, like in their worst stretch with the team. Come on, guys, get it together. Stop affecting morale negatively. You're spending money to help the team win. Don't be counterproductive. I'll keep it at that. I'm not gonna resort to curses or insults, but don't be counterproductive. On that note, I guess I'm taking us out this week. No Kaan. Follow us on Twitter. I'll spell it out since we rarely do it these days. At Eagles_podcast. Follow me at Sir_Writes_a lot. Özcan, give him your give him your Twitter handle.
I'll just plug myself here then. You can follow me on Twitter at OzcanBay98.
Spell it out for the layman.
You can follow me on Twitter, so it's OzcanBey98. You got it?
Yeah, good. Perfect. You heard the man. Follow him on Twitter, OzcanBay98. And of course, follow Beşiktaş International at Beşiktaş_INT. And of course, follow Kaan, the, prodigal son of the podcast, if you will, at RAZZERIAN, Razarian. And stay tuned, as always. Next week, we've got a very fun episode coming midweek with Özcan Oğur. We're going over the sort of semi-annual financial report, talking about big news in the Super League financially. And so, of course, we've got our expert in. His episode did good numbers the last time around because he's a real thorough, solid expert on the matter. So I hope you guys are ready for that. And then, of course, next weekend, we'll be back with the usual match review. Jesus Christ. With the usual match review of the match against Erzurumspor. Ends up being quite a tongue twister. Tongue twister. Jeez. Anyway, we've made it through this episode just barely. Özcan, why don't you drop my usual line?
Go Beşiktaş!
Yeah, there it is. Go Beşiktaş! Man, 3 points, guys. 3 points against Özcan. Nothing less. Nothing less will be accepted. Özcan, it was a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Well, you'll have to keep checking in as our substitute teacher whenever it turns out.
I get to watch the game, sir.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you got to watch. Congrats. I'll talk to you later, man. I'm gonna check out. I gotta go out to dinner soon.
Right, see you later, bro. Bye.
Hey everyone, Kaan here. Not on this episode, of course, because I'm otherwise preoccupied, but just wanted to give my 2 cents. Thought it was a great game. Saw a lot of positives today. Still plenty to work on. But what I really liked, especially in the first half, is the amount of movement we had up front. I don't think Burak had a great game. Had a lot of poor touches and some poor passes. I think you could see, I think, that he isn't 100% match fit yet because he hasn't played for 2 months or more. But he was weighing on the defense. He was making a lot of runs. He was creating movement, but not just him. Quaresma was moving around a lot, which I was surprised by. Obviously, Lens was moving around. Laic was moving around a lot. There was just a lot of movement up front, and I think that really helped. Burak, despite the fact that he wasn't having a great game, he weighed a lot on the defense. You could see that they were very wary of him, which simply allowed our other players more space, as I already said. Great goal by Kaan. What a smashing goal, really. He's been, I think, our number one bright spot of the season. If he continues like this, there's absolutely no argument for that. Laic getting 2 assists. Of course, the first one was an accident, so to speak. I mean, he gave the ball to Kaan, and who can predict that he's going to smash it in from, 27, 28 meters or something like that. So it counts as an assist statistically, but obviously that's not really much of an assist. But then he gets an assist in the second half on Laren. After having already set up a couple of good attacks. I thought Lens was really good, especially in the second half when he switched to the right wing. Did fine on the left, but obviously better on the right. Vida was strong. I think Isimat made a very good first appearance. Didn't look like he had any adjustment issues. Karius was good too. Gökhan was good. I think the team as a whole played well, but one of the things I didn't like as much is still our problem in midfield, controlling the game. Medel took a yellow early, and I don't know, just doesn't feel like he fits there in that midfield. Not enough control in that midfield. We really need a replacement for Atiba this summer. We need a new Atiba, a new engine for that midfield. Kaan covers a lot of ground, goes box to box a lot, but he's not that type of player. And otherwise, happy to see Laren get on the score sheet. Actually, I thought he was good coming off the bench, and before he came on, I was really disillusioned because I wanted Guven to come on instead. For Burak, I completely understand Burak getting taken off at the hour mark. I think that's the only right decision for the coach. We were 2-0 up. The guy hasn't played in a long time. Don't overdo it with him. You know, he's already kind of injury prone, so you don't want to put too much strain on those muscles and all that. But Laren, to his credit, did a good performance, had a good goal. And then, the only other thing I have to say is that Akhisar was great too. I think they definitely went out there and from the first to the last minutes, they gave it their all. I think this was an amazing game for the neutral. I'm sure that whoever watched this and does not support either team enjoyed this game. And then last but not least, whether we would have won, or lost today, it seems that we would have gotten 3 points anyway because Akhisar were so stupid, that's just the way to say it, to put 13 foreigners on the sheet, and you're only allowed 12. So this will probably get converted to a 3-0 win instead of a 3-1. But all in all, just a good performance, and I hope we can build on this. And now we just have to hope that Başakşehir drop points this weekend against Trabzonspor, lose preferably, because the question was asked, should we prefer Trabzon to win or Başakşehir, because Trabzon are competition for second place. But I think we always have to, at this stage of the competition, you have to hope for Başakşehir to slip up, because the longer you keep hope alive, the longer your team is going to go 100%. And that's really it. Enjoyed the game, and that's the first game this season that I can... Well, not the first game, but one of a very few games this season where I can say I thoroughly enjoyed that. And it's a great start to 2019, so let's hope we keep going. Go Beşiktaş!
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.